This is insane. As in today's game, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is looking like his 2021 self, hitting absolute missiles and hitting absolute moonshot. He looks phenomenal, and he's going to be key for the Toronto Blue Jays going forward in this upcoming season. And Ricky Tiedemann also took the bump today, and we saw some very encouraging things from him. So we'll break that down in this episode of Jays Digest, as well as Danny Jansen. We have a very scary update on his front, as he is going to miss some time and miss the start of the regular season. So stay tuned for that and much more in this episode of Jays Digest. What's up, Jays fans? It's Gosse, host of Jays Digest, and we have a lot to discuss today. Some brutal news coming out of the Toronto Blue Jays camp regarding Danny Jansen, but they did play a game. They're currently playing a game right now. The starters are out, and we saw some very good things, and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is looking like he is going to be a problem in 2024. But before we do, quick reminder to hit that like button. We're going to try to aim for 250 likes on this video, so scroll down and hit that button if you haven't already. Haven't asked for that in a while, so see what you guys can do if you enjoyed the daily Jays content. Thank you for your continued support, as we're very close to 12,000 subscribers. Without further ado, let's get into the first topic, which this is insane. And Vladimir Guerrero Jr., he obviously started off spring training looking very good, and then he obviously got injured for a little bit, and now he came out today and he's been coming out for the past few games and just he's been hitting absolute missiles, and he looks like the 2021 Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Now, this is obviously spring training. I'm not going to get ahead of myself too much here. But when you're looking at the process behind things and a guy like Vladimir Guerrero Jr., a lot of these teams now are starting to implement and play their major league pitchers, their major league hitters, and a lot of their regular lineups. Obviously, there's games like yesterday where they aren't televised and the Jays aren't playing. They're on the road and they're not playing their great guys. But for the most part, most teams are playing their good players. And we saw today Vladimir Guerrero Jr. went off. He went beyond off, and you can see here, you can see just the stats. He went 2 for 4. He hit an absolute bomb, which I'll show you in a minute. He hit a line drive, moving his spring OPS up to almost 1,200, and there's a lot of things to go over in today's game. Springer hit a home run as well. Like, everyone is playing so well. Dalton Varsho continues the mash. Kirk went 3 for 3 in a game where he really needed to go 3 for 3. Kind of give some Jays fans some breaths of fresh air, because Danny Jansen is going to be out for a while. But when we're talking about Vladimir Guerrero Jr., we started in the first inning and hit an absolute laser, 113 miles per hour off the bat, a line drive. He is not hitting the ball into the ground. He is getting under the ball. He is hitting absolute missiles. He's hitting moonshots. And again, me and Peter have discussed this at length. Obviously, the Jays didn't make that huge splash, aside from maybe Justin Turner in the offseason. And for them to be a World Series contender, for them to be a playoff favorite, a playoff team even, and really give the Yankees and the other teams, the Orioles, a threat to this division, and the Red Sox, of course, they need Vladimir Guerrero Jr. to play. They need him to play, and they need him to play at a very high level. Obviously, the Red Sox aren't what they used to be, but the AL East is still a very strong team, and if you want to compete, you need Vladdy to be like his 2021 self if they want to have a chance. Obviously, he doesn't have to be necessarily an MVP finalist, but he needs to be a lot better than he was last year, and it's looking like he's starting to come back from that, as he hit an absolute moonshot, and I can't even describe the feeling we felt when his ball was hit out of the yard. Like, he looks unbelievable, and he just looks so comfortable at the plate. We know he came into camp in better shape than he has ever, and now we know that he's been working in the offseason by getting under the ball once again. And it is translating. He had another home run a few days ago, and he is looking very, very good. And if you're the Toronto Blue Jays, you have to be encouraged with what you see from him and from what you're seeing from the other guys. Springer's really starting to put it together. He has a second home run. Bo is shot. We don't got to worry about him. And Alejandro Kirk is looking very solid as well. And of course, Justin Turner obviously didn't have a great game today, but he's been doing very solid things, especially hitting with runners in scoring position. So this lineup has power. It has everything you need if they can actually produce. And the 5 to 9, the bottom half of the lineup, is going to be the real big question mark going forward with Biggio, Kiner Falefa, Kevin Kiermaier, all these guys, debatably Dalton Varsho, depending on where you put him in. But all I know is Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is insane, and
stays put once again.
Back and looks like his old self. The Toronto Blue Jays are going to have a big chance to really kind of be the year that they actually do something and win a playoff game. Because as much as we've hoped and said for the past few years that the Toronto Blue Jays are real contenders, they need to actually go out and show it. And I think everyone is dedicated to doing that, and it is great to see that that the boys are doing that. And also Ricky Tiedemann, he went 2 1/3, gave up a couple runs there, but he was sitting between 95 and 97 miles per hour, got up to 36 pitches. They're building him up, not too worried about the results. His fastball looked great, his changeup looked okay, everything looks solid. Obviously, the results necessarily are not what they're worried about, and I think Tiedemann obviously is not quite ready for the majors yet, especially because of the inning count that he has yet to achieve and yet to reach. He's going to need to obviously get his inning count up a good bit because he has not pitched enough in the minor leagues or in spring training. But he will get there, and yeah, overall, very fun day. Vlad hit a bomb. I'll show it for you one more time.
Stays
And,
put once
what a day
again.
to be a Jays fan, even though they're probably going to end up losing the game. Now, obviously, there goes the end of the positives. We have some brutal Danny Jansen news, and we've been discussing about it. And kind of a highlight of spring training has been obviously Danny Jansen, but Brian Servin, who is our backup, or our third-string catcher, who's been on an absolute tear. And obviously, he wasn't going to start the season with the team, and he might now, as it came out today that Blue Jays catcher Danny Jansen has a small fracture in the bone at the base of his right wrist. He was hit by a pitch on Wednesday, and of course he was hit by a pitch. And John Schneider says he'll be down for a couple weeks and would hopefully be back early in the season. He is going to miss opening day. Will be out for at least 2 weeks. Servin and Henry will be the backfill for the time being. You got to give Servin a chance. He has above 1,000, I think above 1,100 OPS in spring training. We saw his hot streak at the start, and this is why you make trades for the kind of third-string veteran catching guys like Brian Servin and Henry. But at the end of the day, Danny Jansen was having an unbelievable spring. There's no question marks about Danny Jansen's ability to hit, to catch, do any of that. The only question mark, and we were talking about a potential extension coming into this season for Danny Jansen, and they decided to wait it out on both sides, obviously mutually. He cannot stay healthy. You look at the games played. He hasn't played above 100 games since 2019. Last season was his most healthy year, and he still missed half the games. And obviously, he's a phenomenal catcher, unbelievable hitter. He's an unbelievable, defensive catcher. Not unbelievable. He's a solid defensive catcher. He's an okay framer. He works great with the pitching staff. He really elevates all the pitchers. But the man cannot stay healthy, and it's very unfortunate to see. You can't really blame him. It's very unlucky injuries, but durability is a huge part of being an MLB player, and specifically an MLB catcher. And this is a brutal blow for the Blue Jays. There's no doubt about it. It's a brutal blow for the Blue Jays. Luckily, they have 2 starting caliber catchers. Alejandro Kirk, who's had a very good spring, looks like he's actually in good shape and hitting home runs, which he didn't do last season barely at all. We have a very good backup option. I guess if Kirk wouldn't even, depending who you have as your 1A, but he's the 1A, 1B catcher. We have a very good starting catching option in Alejandro Kirk and Brian Servin, who had a lot of run throughout spring and looked very, very good. So there's not an immediate concern about the catching position, but if this team wants to perform the way that we know they can perform in their ceiling and they want to reach that ceiling, they need Danny Jansen on the team. And being out for 2 weeks, is it unfortunate? Absolutely. Is it really bad? Absolutely. Does it mean that he's going to be out for longer than 2 weeks? Probably not. He has a fracture and a bone in his wrist, but it is just a little bit scary to see. But luckily here, you can see Alejandro Kirk's had a great spring, and I think he's going to be okay. And I think the Jays are going to be okay ultimately as well. And if you're looking at those OPSs on the right there for the Toronto Blue Jays, they're looking very, very good. And I think if the Jays can continue to just reach their ceiling, if all their players have the bounce backs, obviously there's going to be some injuries. We have a lot of pitching things. Last season, our starting rotation didn't miss very many games at all due to injury, and we're already seeing now Gosse might miss opening day. We have a bunch of different injuries. Alek Manoah, Yusei Kikuchi obviously hasn't been injured, and a few of those guys have been fine. But the big guys, obviously, Alek Manoah, who's supposed to have a big bounce back, and then Kevin Gausman, who was our absolute ace of the staff, is hurt. Injuries are going to happen, and we need people to step up, and hopefully this won't be too big of a deal. But that'll wrap up the video. Let me know in the comments what your thoughts are on it. If you want to check out a video from yesterday, click on your screen now. We'll see you tomorrow.